Yeah, hey, so this is Blind Guy Doing Stuff today, and I'm going to make a video real quick and talk about the Florida medical cannabis bill that just passed, or aka Florida medical marijuana. A lot of people are trying to get away from the marijuana term, but so, but Amendment 2 is an amendment to the Florida Constitution, and it just passed in 2016. They tried to pass it in 2014, but it did not pass. So Amendment 2, what it does is it amends the Florida Constitution. And this is actually a really big deal because Washington has MMJ, but the Constitution is not amended. So it's always fiddled with, and you just never quite know what's going to happen with it. But Florida actually is going to amend their Constitution to say that caretakers well, doctors can prescribe medical cannabis, and caretakers can take on a limited number of patients. And exactly what that looks like, we just don't know yet. But one of the most encouraging parts of this are the list of qualifying conditions that are right there in the text that will go into the Florida Constitution. And again, this is a really big deal that you change in the Constitution. It allows people to get medical cannabis for epilepsy, glaucoma, HIV, ALS, Crohn's disease. The big one that I was kind of shocked because we had to actually go down and fight for it in Olympia, PTSD, that's a big one. And so there's a lot of different qualifying conditions and other qualifying conditions that might not have a cure, and that your doctor says this medical cannabis will outweigh, let me rephrase that. The benefits of the medical cannabis will outweigh the risks. Now, this is kind of a silly statement because the risks of medical cannabis are so low. Um, Most of the risks that people think around cannabis have actually sort of been placed there by modern culture and are not, there's not really a whole lot of risk to using medical cannabis. Especially if you have HIV and you're using medical cannabis to help stimulate your appetite. The trade-off between being sick and using the cannabis, I mean, it's just not even comparable. So there's not really a whole lot of risk. So this is very encouraging. The language of the bill is pretty encouraging. They did a good job with the language. And this bill passed by 72% of the vote in Florida, which is huge. I'm from that part of the world, Florida. I spent quite a bit of time in Florida. I do know that they were having an opiate epidemic down south. They have these pill mills down around the Miami area where you can just go through there and get all these pills. I do know there's a big problem with oxys and all that kind of stuff down there in Florida. So this is a really big deal. And another thing is too about cannabis in Florida is Florida already has a lot of cannabis in it. Um, so it's great that the state can actually take a hold of this and actually get tax revenue from it, and patients can get good medicine. And some of the terminally ill patients can go to the store and get medicine. Because I was just talking to somebody today. I mean, if you're a cancer patient, let's say you're a granny, a grandma, and you're 75 years old, and you go to the doctor, and they say, okay, you have cancer. Well, more than likely, you are not going to know where even to begin to get some marijuana. You're not going to find it. Um, People who use marijuana often have trouble finding it. So it kind of is going to depend. So it's really good that they're getting this out there so that people can actually use this, because that list of things I just listed off there, I've spoken to many people with a lot of all those conditions, and it helps with all of them. I mean, you meet people up here in Washington using medical cannabis, and you just would not believe the things that they treat, and you would also not believe the benefits that people get from it. So this is the Florida Medical Cannabis Bill. This is very encouraging. I would suggest, if you're watching this, if you are in Florida, to call up your representative. And I know this kind of goes against what you're used to, being in a illicit market state. Call your representative and tell them your story if you're using medical cannabis, and say, hey, this is what I need. Try to put a face on it. They're not going to come to your house and break in your door. They're not going to come and harass you or anything. The representative, most of the time, they will listen. So it's important that you call your representatives if you're living in Florida and tell them to work on this, because the Department of Health is going to be charged to do this. So right now it's encouraging just for the language in the bill, but they can take that language and mess it up. So go talk to your legislator, write them, email them, whatever you need to do. And thanks for checking this out. My name's Blind Guy Doing Stuff, and I'm doing these videos on politics and whatever else. I'm going to be doing some other stuff, sports here and there, whenever I can get a chance. So please hit subscribe on my video there and share it. I would appreciate it. So thanks for checking us out. Florida Medical Cannabis is coming.
Studio mode. Stop recording button.
Bye-bye.